It's not about spending money. It's not about defining oneself through purchases.
For years, fans of Pawn Stars have asked the same question. What really happened between Rick Harrison and Rebecca, and why did she suddenly stop appearing on the show? Rumors have spread online, stories have been twisted, and the truth has stayed buried under speculation. Join us as we break down what really happened, step by step, and uncover the truth behind one of the most talked about firing stories in Pawn Stars history. Not an ordinary childhood. Rebecca Angeline was born in 1985 in Idaho, and from the very beginning, her home life was not like most. She grew up in a highly intellectual household where learning was part of everyday life. Her parents were scientists, and they treated knowledge as something important, not optional. In their home, books mattered more than television. Instead of spending evenings watching shows, the family spent time reading, discussing ideas, and asking questions. This environment shaped her early. Reading was not just a hobby for her, it was a daily habit. Her parents encouraged her to think deeply about what she read. They did not just want her to understand stories. They wanted her to break them apart. They would talk about why characters made certain choices, what those choices meant, and how different decisions could lead to different outcomes. These were not rare conversations. They happened all the time, even during simple moments like dinner. Because of this, Rebecca was introduced to complex thinking at a very young age. She learned to think about ethics, decisions, and consequences long before most people her age. While other kids were focused on entertainment, she was learning how to question ideas and look beyond the surface. This did not feel unusual to her. It felt normal because it was part of her everyday life. Over time, this way of thinking became natural. She learned to notice small details, to question what seemed obvious, and to look for patterns in information. These skills did not come from formal training at first. They came from years of practice at home, where curiosity was encouraged and simple answers were never enough. Her parents created an environment where asking why was more important than accepting things as they were. This early training quietly shaped the way she saw the world. It taught her to be careful, to think critically, and to avoid making quick assumptions. She became someone who looked for proof, not just opinions. She also became comfortable with complex ideas, which later helped her in areas that required deep focus and attention. These habits would eventually define her career. The ability to recognize patterns, question authenticity, and analyze details became some of her strongest skills. What started as simple family discussions turned into a powerful way of thinking that set her apart from others. And this way of thinking would soon lead her down a path no one around her expected. The path that made no sense. In 2003, Rebecca took the next step in her journey by enrolling at Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah. From the outside, her choices did not seem practical, while many students focused on degrees that clearly led to stable careers. She chose a path that most people around her did not fully understand. She decided to double major in classical studies and linguistics. On top of that, she added minors in philosophy and art history. These were not the kinds of subjects people usually connect with clear job opportunities. Friends and classmates often leaned toward business, science, or other fields with obvious career paths. Rebecca, however, stayed focused on what interested her, not what seemed safe. Her daily routine reflected that commitment. She spent long hours studying, often working through ancient texts for up to 12 hours at a time. These were not simple readings. She was translating languages that most people never encounter, including ancient Greek and Latin. This kind of work required patience, focus, and attention to detail. It was slow, demanding, and mentally exhausting, but she kept pushing through it. One moment during her studies stood out. During an exam, she was asked to translate a Greek papyrus dating back to around 300 BC. Instead of producing work at a beginner level, she delivered something far beyond expectations. Her professors were surprised by the quality and accuracy of her translation. It showed that she was not just learning. She was mastering the material at a much deeper level than most students. By the time she was 22, she had built an impressive set of language skills. She could speak English, French, and Japanese fluently, On top of that, she could read and understand Latin, Ancient Greek, and Old English. This meant she could work directly with original texts, including works that many people only experience in modern translations. She had access to information in its original form, without relying on someone else's interpretation. At the time, this skill set did not seem very practical. There was no clear job title waiting for someone with this exact combination of knowledge. To many people, it looked like years of effort without a direct payoff. But what was not obvious then was how valuable these skills would become later. She was learning how to analyze language, spot inconsistencies, and understand context in a very precise way. These abilities would eventually connect to a career that required exactly those strengths. And just when it seemed like her path was set, something unexpected forced her to change direction completely. The unexpected detour. After graduating in 2007, Rebecca made a decision that followed the path she had been building for years. She moved to Japan with a clear goal in mind. She wanted to improve her Japanese in a real-world setting, not just in a classroom. To do that, she took a job teaching English. It was a practical step that allowed her to live in the language every day, speak with native speakers, and understand how it worked in normal life. Her long-term plan was simple. She wanted to return to the United States, apply for a master's program in Japanese literature, and continue her academic journey. She had already spent years studying languages, and this next step felt like a natural continuation. The year in Japan was meant to prepare her for that move. When she returned to the U.S. later in 2007, things did not go as planned. She quickly realized that the deadlines for graduate programs had already passed. It was a small timing issue, but it had a big impact. Instead of moving forward into her next academic step, she found herself with no immediate direction. At the same time, her family had relocated to Las Vegas. So she ended up there too, waiting for the next application cycle. What was supposed to be a short pause turned into a period where she had to figure out how to use her time. She was no longer in school, and she was not yet in a graduate program. That left her in an in-between stage that felt uncertain. Like most people in that situation, she needed to earn money. Bills did not wait, and she could not afford to sit still for months. So she started looking for work, even if it had nothing to do with her academic background. At that point, her focus was simple: find something stable until the next step opened up. That is when something unexpected appeared. While searching for jobs, she came across an opening at Bowman Rare Books. It was not something she had planned for. She had no professional experience in bookselling or dealing, but she had years of studying texts, languages, and historical material. On paper, it was not an obvious match, but it caught her attention. She applied, not knowing that this decision would completely change her direction. What started as a temporary solution during a gap year was about to turn into something much bigger than she expected. And once she stepped into that world, everything began to shift very quickly. A world with no rules. Rebecca's entry into Bowman Rare Books was not planned in the usual way. She applied without any real experience in the rare book trade. She had never worked in sales, never priced valuable items, and had no formal training in authentication. Still, she was hired in November 2007, even before the Las Vegas Gallery officially opened. It was a risk for the company, but it was also a rare opportunity for her. The gallery itself was located inside the Palazzo, a high-end resort on the Las Vegas Strip. It was an unusual place for a rare book business. Las Vegas is known for entertainment and tourism, not for historical texts and collectors. Yet this location brought in a large number of visitors every week. That meant she was immediately exposed to a fast-moving environment with real customers and real money involved. One of the first things she learned was that there is no formal degree for becoming a rare book dealer. You cannot study it in a standard program and then step into the job. The work is learned through experience. It depends on observation, judgment, and a strong sense of detail. This meant she had to rely on her instincts while learning everything from scratch. Her background in languages gave her an advantage. She could read texts in multiple languages and understand their structure and meaning. This helped her identify important details in books that others might miss. But she quickly realized that translation skills were only one part of the job. Knowing what a text says is different from knowing how much it is worth. She had to learn how to authenticate items, which meant checking if they were real or fake. She also had to understand pricing, which depends on rarity, condition, demand, and history. Selling was another challenge because it required clear communication and confidence when dealing with buyers. In the beginning, this was not easy. Every decision carried weight, especially when items could be worth thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Mistakes could be costly, but she adapted quickly. Her ability to notice patterns and question details helped her improve faster than expected. She also benefited from repetition. Seeing similar books again and again helped her build a strong sense of what was normal and what was not. Over time, her confidence grew and her skills became sharper. And as she got better, the opportunities in front of her started to grow just as fast. Career takes off. Rebecca did not ease into the rare book world slowly. From the start, she was placed in an environment where the stakes were high and the pace was fast. At the Las Vegas Gallery, she was exposed to valuable inventory almost immediately. These were not small, low-risk items. Many of the books and manuscripts she handled were worth tens of thousands of dollars, and some reached values as high as $500,000. This kind of exposure is rare, especially for someone new to the field. Most people in the industry spend years building up to that level of responsibility. Rebecca, however, was learning by doing, and doing it at the highest level right away. The gallery itself played a big role in this. With thousands of visitors coming in every week, she was constantly interacting with customers, answering questions, and examining items. This created a fast learning environment where she had to improve quickly or fall behind. One of the most important parts of her early experience was working with extremely rare books, including Shakespeare folios. These are some of the most valuable and respected items in the rare book world. Many professionals go their entire careers without ever handling one. Rebecca, on the other hand, was part of a gallery that dealt with multiple folios within just a few years. This gave her a level of exposure that few others at her stage ever get. Handling items like that was not just about looking at them. It required understanding their history, condition, and significance. It also meant being careful with every detail, because even a small mistake could affect value. This kind of responsibility pushed her to develop her skills faster than usual. By 2010, only about 3 years after she started, she was promoted to gallery manager. She was around 24 years old at the time. This was not a small step. It meant she was now responsible for running the entire operation. Her role included managing staff, overseeing daily work, planning marketing efforts, and making decisions about which items to buy or sell. She also had to balance business goals with expert judgment. Choosing the right inventory, setting prices, and maintaining the gallery's reputation all became part of her daily work. In an industry where it often takes 15 to 20 years to reach that level, her rise stood out. And just as she settled into that role, an unexpected opportunity came from outside the rare book world. The invitation. In 2011, a new opportunity came from a place Rebecca had not been aiming for: television. Rick Harrison, the owner of the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop and one of the main faces of Pawn Stars, reached out to Bowman Rare Books. He wanted a rare book expert to appear on the show and help evaluate items brought into the shop. At first, Bowman Rare Books was not interested. The company focused on serious collectors and high-end material, and television did not seem like a natural fit. But Rick kept pushing. He understood that having a real expert would add credibility to the show. Eventually, the company agreed, opening the door for someone from their team to appear on screen. Rebecca was not randomly selected by producers. She was specifically invited because of her expertise and her role as manager of the Las Vegas Gallery. She already had experience dealing with valuable books, working with clients, and making quick but accurate judgments. Those skills made her a strong fit for the kind of situations shown on Pawn Stars. She made her debut in Season 4, and it did not take long for viewers to notice her. At the time, most of the experts on the show were men, and she quickly stood out as the only consistent female expert in her field. But what really made her different was not just her presence, it was her approach. While the show often focused on entertainment and negotiation, Rebecca stayed focused on facts. She did not try to make moments more dramatic than they needed to be. Instead, she explained her reasoning clearly and kept her evaluations grounded in evidence. This made her stand out in a setting where excitement often took center stage. One of her early appearances showed exactly what she brought to the table. She examined Civil War-era documents and quickly identified a forged signature. She pointed out the details that did not match known examples, making it clear that the item was not authentic. This was not guesswork. It was based on knowledge, experience, and careful observation. Moments like this helped establish her identity on the show. She was not there to agree with sellers or to make things sound better than they were. She was there to tell the truth, even if it disappointed someone. And as more of these moments followed, her reputation with viewers only continued to grow. The appraisals. Rebecca's reputation on television grew because of the way she handled appraisals on Pawn Stars. She did not rely on excitement or guesses. She focused on careful checking, small details, and clear explanations. Over time, several evaluations stood out and helped define how viewers saw her. One early moment involved a Charles Lindbergh signed book. The shop had purchased it under uncertain conditions, and if the signature had been fake, it could have caused a serious loss. Rebecca carefully examined the writing and confirmed it was authentic. This saved Chumley from a costly mistake and showed how important expert verification could be. Another memorable appraisal was a book printed in 1484, known as an incunable. These are among the earliest printed books in Europe, created before 1501. After examining its condition and rarity, she placed its value around $80,000. The number made sense because of how few of these books still exist and how important early printing history is to collectors. She also evaluated a book by Thomas Aquinas, where the artwork had been altered in a later period. At first glance, the book looked more valuable than it actually was, but once she identified the non-original editions, the value dropped significantly. This showed how restoration and modifications can change the worth of rare items in a serious way. A different case involved a Mark Twain Tom Sawyer Salesman sample. This was a rare promotional book used in the past to sell subscriptions. Rebecca called it extremely rare and described it as a holy grail for collectors. Its value reflected its scarcity and historical role, not just its condition. She also corrected a misidentified Pony Express Bible. The seller believed it was part of a famous limited set, but Rebecca pointed out that it actually came from a related but different organization. Even though it was not what the seller thought, it still held value as a piece of American West history. In another case, she reviewed a Franklin D. Roosevelt letter. While it was authentic, it contained routine content rather than historically important information. Because of that, its value was much lower than expected, showing how content matters just as much as authorship. She also appraised a signed Hunter S. Thompson paperback, where the real value came from the story behind the signature rather than the book itself. The physical item was common, but the personal connection increased interest slightly. Across all these moments, one pattern stayed clear. Small details could completely change value. Rebecca always relied on evidence, not emotion. This consistent approach made viewers trust her judgment more than most experts on screen. And just as her reputation grew, her time on the show began to change in unexpected ways. The disappearance. In 2014, Rebecca's career took another major turn when she moved from Las Vegas to Philadelphia. This shift was not sudden or negative. It was tied to her promotion at Bowman Rare Books, where she stepped into the role of Senior Projects Director at the company's headquarters. This new position came with much greater responsibility than what viewers had seen on Pawn Stars. Instead of focusing mainly on appraisals in a single gallery, she was now involved in large-scale operations across the entire company. She managed more than 20 staff members and helped oversee different departments working on research, sales, acquisitions, and cataloging. Her work was no longer limited to evaluating items on camera. Behind the scenes, she was involved in planning major projects, handling important business decisions, and coordinating teams that worked with high-value collections. This level of responsibility required constant attention and made her schedule much more demanding than before. Because of this promotion, she was physically based far from Las Vegas. That distance became an important factor. The pawn shop featured on the show was still located in Las Vegas, and filming required experts to be available on site. With Rebecca now working primarily in Philadelphia, she was no longer nearby for regular appearances. As a result, her time on the show naturally decreased. It was not a sudden removal or conflict situation. It was simply a matter of logistics. Traveling across the country for frequent filming became difficult when her main responsibilities were tied to daily operations at headquarters. Her career had expanded and her time had to be divided differently. However, online audiences did not always see it that way. As her appearances became less frequent, rumors began to spread. Some viewers speculated that she had been fired. Others suggested there had been disagreements behind the scenes. These theories grew mainly because people did not have access to the full picture of her professional life. The reality was much simpler. Her workload had increased significantly, and her career was moving in a different direction. She was taking on more leadership responsibilities, which required her full attention. The reduced television presence was a natural outcome of her new role, not a sign of conflict or removal. Even though she was no longer a regular face on the show, she did return occasionally when schedules allowed. Her appearances became less frequent, but they never completely stopped. And just when it seemed like her connection to the show had faded, she appeared again in a way no one expected. The truth behind the firing. The idea that Rebecca was fired from Pawn Stars has circulated online for years, but when you look closely at the timeline, it does not hold up. There is no clear break, no public statement, and no sign of conflict that would normally come with a firing. Instead, the evidence points in a very different direction, one based on location, workload, and ongoing professional respect. After her move to Philadelphia in 2014, Rebecca's role changed significantly. She was no longer based in Las Vegas, where the pawn shop and filming primarily took place. At the same time, she was taking on senior leadership responsibilities at Bowman Rare Books. This combination made regular appearances more difficult, but it did not end her connection to the show. If she had been fired or removed, it would not make sense for her to return later in a formal filming setting. Yet she did exactly that. In 2022, she appeared in Pawn Stars Do America, a spin-off of the original show. This appearance clearly showed that her relationship with the production was still active. Even more important was how the filming happened. Instead of her being brought back to Las Vegas or treated as a former cast member, the show's team, including Rick Harrison and other crew members, traveled to her location. This is a key detail. Productions do not usually go out of their way to film with someone they have cut ties with. It suggests continued respect and a working relationship that was still intact. This moment also shows something important about how she was viewed professionally. She was not just a recurring expert who could be replaced easily. She was someone whose knowledge still mattered enough for the show to adjust its schedule and logistics to include her. That level of effort reflects trust in her judgment and value. At the same time, the firing narrative grew mainly because of how television stories are perceived by audiences. When someone stops appearing regularly on screen, viewers often assume something dramatic happened behind the scenes. But television production is shaped by many practical factors. including location, scheduling, and career changes outside of filming. In Rebecca's case, the simpler explanation is the correct one. She moved into a more demanding leadership role, relocated across the country, and naturally became less available for filming. There was no public fallout, no confirmed dispute, and no evidence of dismissal. The contrast between online speculation and actual events shows how quickly narratives can form without full context. Fans often see the absence of appearances and fill in the gaps with assumptions, even when the real reason is far less dramatic. And as her career continued outside of television, she kept building a path that went far beyond the show that made her recognizable. A new path. By the time Rebecca had stepped away from regular television appearances on Pawn Stars, her career had already moved in a much broader direction. In 2016, she married J.P. Romney, a writer and researcher. Their partnership was built on shared interests in books, history, and deep research. Instead of separating personal and professional life, they often worked in the same intellectual space, exploring unusual stories hidden in historical texts. This collaboration led to one of her first major publishing projects. In 2017, she co-authored Printer's Error, a book focused on strange, surprising, and often overlooked moments in the history of printing and books. The work reflected a shift in her focus. She was no longer just evaluating rare objects for value. She was now actively telling the stories behind them in a more structured and thoughtful way. Around the same time, she began working with Honey and Wax booksellers in Brooklyn. This was a small but highly respected rare book business that focused on unique collections and meaningful historical material. Her work there allowed her to continue dealing with rare books, but in a setting that was more research-driven and less tied to television attention. One of the most important initiatives she helped launch in 2017 was the Honey and Wax Book Collecting Prize. The goal of this prize was simple but important. It was designed to support and encourage young women who were building serious book collections. Many collectors, especially women, often did not see themselves as real collectors, even when they had strong and thoughtful collections. The prize helped change that by recognizing their work and giving them visibility. This project showed a clear shift in her priorities. Instead of focusing on media exposure, she was focused on building long-term support for people who shared her interests. It was about encouraging deeper engagement with books and collecting in a more inclusive way. In 2019, she co-founded Type Punch Matrix in Washington, D.C. This new rare book firm was designed to combine traditional rare book dealing with modern research and presentation methods. The name itself reflects a focus on the physical craft of printing and bookmaking. By 2020, the firm had opened a gallery in downtown Washington, D.C. It quickly gained attention for its carefully selected collections and its focus on rare and unusual material. The gallery continued her pattern of working in spaces where knowledge, research, and curation mattered more than entertainment value. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more untold stories like this.